Greetings and salutations, friends. I'm Prince Amari, gay matchmaker, relationship coach, and hypnotherapist. And in today's video, we are going to talk about sexual attraction, attachment styles, and power in relationships. Very, very juicy. But before I do that, I want to remind you guys that the number one reason anybody is single is because they're trying to have a level 25 relationship with level 3 dating skills. So if you'd like to find out your estimated dating skill level, you can click the link in the description, wherever that happens to be based on what you're looking at, or you can go directly to datingskillquiz.com and find out your dating skill level. And a whole lot of juicy insights on like what to do based on what level you're at to get to the next level and how it impacts your current dating experience. So yeah, check it out, datingskillquiz.com. Additionally, the content that I'm going to be talking about in this video, I'm teaching in a half-day workshop in December. Yeah, I guess I'll say dates on the video because I'll keep making videos and it don't matter. But like in December, there's going to be a workshop on this very topic, sex, attachment, and power. So check out the deets in the description for that as well. And let's jump into it, okay? Friends, prepare your edges. Okay, I'm preparing my, what do you call these? My eyebrow edges, my invisible eyebrow extensions. You gotta put them behind the ear sometimes, but let's walk. So sex, attachment styles, and power. First things first, if you've never heard of attachment styles, it is one of the most important things you need to know about yourself and about your partner if you want to have a healthy relationship. Okay. Our attachment styles are formed by the age of 3. And for 70% of us, they will not change over the course of our lifetimes. And so the way that we measure attachment styles is based on 2 scales. One is our fear of intimacy, right? So how much we fear intimacy or not. And then 2, our fear of abandonment, okay? And how much we are afraid that people will abandon us or not. And so those 2 scales intersect to form 4 attachment styles. The first is secure. So if we have a very low fear of intimacy and a low fear of abandonment, which means our parents, our caretakers, created a safe environment where we felt seen, heard, and valued as little kids, we will have a secure attachment style, which means we have a very relatively easy time connecting to people, building romantic attachments in a healthy way without a lot of drama or fanfare. And about 50% of people have secure attachment styles. If we have a low fear of abandonment, but a high fear of intimacy, this is what we call an avoidant attachment style. And about 20-25% of people have an avoidant style. This is going to be characterized by getting anxious whenever things get too close. So this is the people that will pull away when a relationship starts to get closer, right? It is the fear of intimacy is what is driving them to pull away. So the other style, if you have a high fear of abandonment but a low fear of intimacy, we call this the anxious style. And so this is going to be characterized by being preoccupied with the relationship and being triggered when people need space. So this is like, why haven't you called me? Why haven't you texted me? Where you been? Right? Let's get closer, more, right? They don't have a fear of intimacy, but they have a fear of abandonment. And then finally, and I think I didn't say that. So this is also about 20-25% of people. And then finally, you have people who have both a high fear of abandonment and a high fear of intimacy. And this is what we call the anxious avoidant or the fearful avoidant attachment style. And this is about 5% of people. And in general, these attachment styles or this attachment style forms if we went through some sort of like childhood trauma or abuse or something like that in general. But any of the styles outside of the secure style are insecure, right? And each of them are formed because we didn't either have consistent parenting or we didn't know what to expect from our parents. And they were always like all over the place in terms of their care, concern, and attention for us. And so that is what the attachment style is. Now, I mentioned that for 70% of people, your attachment style is going to be the same for your entire life. But there are 3 ways that attachment styles can change. First, for the negative side, you can go from secure to insecure if you go through a traumatic situation. So, for example, say you were in the military and you go to war, right? A lot of people come back home with, say, PTSD or something, and they have an increased fear of intimacy, because if you're surrounded by a lot of people you love and you start losing people in a war situation, for example, that can, trigger you to start to then close up and have a fear of getting close to people because you're afraid of subsequently being abandoned in some kind of way, right? So that's just one example. Abusive relationships, things like that, can also shift our attachment style from secure to more insecure. And then on the positive side, there are two ways that we can increase our level of security if we have an insecure attachment style. The first is through therapy, because building a healthy connection, a healthy relationship with a therapist also mirrors the healthy relationship we would build in a secure romantic connection. And then the second way is by getting into a relationship with a partner who has a secure attachment style. And so in either of these cases, our attachment style does not change quickly, okay? But we call this earned attachment, because you can earn a more secure style over time. Now, let's do a little crown shake on this. What a lot of people experience, I'm going to get really close to the microphone right now, do a little ASMR dialogue here. What a lot of people experience is what we call the anxious avoidant trap. This is that cat and mouse game that we see a lot in movies, in media, and even in relationships either that we've had or our friends had. And this happens when someone with an anxious attachment style gets connected romantically to someone with an avoidant attachment style, because each of their triggers is the other person's point of comfort. So, for example, if you are anxious, you want to move closer, you want to increase the level of intimacy in order to diminish your level of anxiety. And the closer you get to someone who is avoidant, that's going to trigger their anxiety, and they're going to want and need more space. And them needing space is going to trigger your anxiety and make you want to get closer. So it looks like we meet, the sparks are high, we get close a little bit, and then the avoidant person starts to pull away because things are getting more intimate. Naturally, the more time you spend with people, the more intimate things get. The anxious person gets triggered, and it goes back and forth. The avoidant person pulls away, the anxious person tries to get closer, and then the anxious person is like, they're not coming back, forget this, I'm over it. And they finally get frustrated and they stop trying to contact the avoidant person. And then next thing you know, you get that "what's up, big head" text, and you're like, where have you been? Like, you just kind of like ghosted, and now you're just like back. And then the anxious person is like, oh, well, maybe it was me, because they will tend to make all of the problems in the relationship about themselves. They try to take too much responsibility, and the avoidant person is usually dismissing the anxious person's feelings, so they're like blaming everything on the anxious person. So it's like this really interesting trap that keeps them in a cycle of never really being able to get that close and always being like hot and cold, right? But the sex is amazing. And this happens in a lot of relationships where the D is D'ing, but the hearts are not really connecting. We don't necessarily feel the emotional intimacy, but the sexual attraction is high because the inconsistency of the connection triggers our desire. All right. In the same way that people can get addicted to like gambling, it's because you never know when you're going to get the win, right? The inconsistent interval of the reward is going to trigger you to keep trying, because at some point, maybe it's going to be as great as it was at first, but it's never that way in general, right? Unless both partners are going to go to therapy to like work on their attachment styles to create more security together. So, quick little segue there. That's an intro to attachment styles. I won't go too deep, but how does this connect to sex? Our attachment style for sure impacts the way that we do sex when we are engaging in our normal like patterns, right? And so when we think about the sexual patterns of daters, here's what it looks like. If we have a secure attachment style, we usually see sex as an expression of the love and intimacy we have with someone. So we're doing the sex because we love, because we like, because we are connected. When we have an anxious attachment style, we are often using sex to get love from someone else. So we see sex as a surrogate for love. Usually when we have an avoidant attachment style, we usually try to detach from sex as much as possible because the intimacy that sex tends to create triggers our anxiety. So people with an avoidant attachment style are more likely to either A, not participate in sexual situations at all, which happens, or B, they will tend to have more of the random, anonymous, no strings attached sex because the strings trigger their anxiety. And then if you have an anxious avoidant attachment style, so that fearful style, it can be a disorganized interplay of both of those sometimes. Sometimes we're using sex as a surrogate for love. Sometimes we're trying to have detached, no strings attached situations. But the moment we have the no strings attached sex, it also triggers our abandonment issues. And so now we're trying to then get closer. So what happens with the anxious avoidant style often is that they will have sex with someone and they say it's nothing. And then they disappear or dissolve the connection. And after the fact, they're like, dang, I probably should have tried to be with them because I actually kind of like them. But it's the hot and cold thing on their own already. So those are some interesting ways that we tend to operate sexually based on our attachment style. And then finally, all of this is really about power. All of it. There's a Janelle Monáe quote in one of her songs that everything is sex except sex, which is power. Power is just sex. Yeah. And what's fascinating here is that we don't often talk enough about power dynamics in our romantic relationships, and not from the perspective of just pure how is power shared, but our orientations to power and whether or not those are compatible, and the fact that that generally is what is going to determine the success or failure of our relationship on that bigger picture level. And so the reason all three of these things are connected is because our orientation toward power, our worldview, the way that we grew up, the way that we learned what power was, the way that we see ourselves, our level of self-esteem, our level of cultural esteem, right? And the power dynamics we experience in our families tend to translate into how we then go and operate in the world. And so our attachment style is very intimately connected to the way that we perceive power in a lot of ways. It's not totally one-to-one, but it is very much connected. And until we are able to have the level of self-awareness to have a healthy relationship with our own power, we are unable to have a healthy relationship with another person, because all relationships involve power dynamics, and it requires us to have a healthy relationship with our own power, to have a healthy relationship with our partner's power in order for our own relationship together to have healthy power dynamics. And so all these things are connected because, as I just explained, the way that we tend to use sex is about power, getting love for someone, keeping distance from someone, right? Expressing ourselves and affirming the connection, affirming the power that we share, right? It is about all those things. And so this is just a little intro to the workshop I mentioned I'm going to be hosting on sex, attachment styles, and power. And so I invite you to come and check that out. Again, the link is going to be in the description for the details. It's virtual, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world. You can attend as long as the time makes sense for you. And again, there is a 50% off very early bird special that ends at the end of the week. So check that out. And I will end here. If you are interested in scheduling a consultation for coaching or matchmaking, you can check out my website in the link as well, or go to the website, it's amarimeanslove.com. And I will see you next time. Sending you love, peace, and glitter. Bye-bye.